AskReddit by enough afternoon 8011. What is unacceptable today that was normal 20 years ago? Going to someone's house without knowing if they are home. Back in the day we'd be out doing stuff and say, hey, let's go see if so and so is around, and head to their house, knock on their door and have no idea if they were home. Nowadays if you did that they'd either think someone died or was about to. Growing up my mom was neurotic about keeping the house spotless in case somebody decided to drop by. These days if someone dropped by my house unannounced I'd wonder who died. Paying $6 a minute to talk to someone internationally. I'm an American who studied abroad in Egypt in 2004, a week after the Abu Ghraib prison scandal, and my mom was so scared she spent $350 on a telephone call to hear my voice. Bless her. Waiting until the weekend to text your friend on a different carrier because that's when texts and minutes were free. Or calling after 9 when the minutes were free. 256 megabyte thumb drives costing $50. Deleted. For the record, 20 years ago was 2004. This fact is unacceptable. Being out of reach and not expecting to reach someone at any time of day. This is normal for me. I make myself out of reach because it's unhealthy to always be available for others and not yourself. Midnight releases I guess. Everything is digital now and nobody does them anymore. I miss those. Especially for books that were made into movies. Everyone at the midnight release read the books and you'd hear audible reactions when they skipped a part, or included a favorite line. Looking at you Twilight when Edward caught the apple a la cover art style. Mid-budget movies in cinemas. Now here and there a good mid-budget movie ends up on the big screen but they mostly end up somewhere on Netflix, to be forgotten quickly. But back then your cinema had so many more movies playing that ranged from huge blockbusters like the first Spider-Man movie to mid-budget dramas like Good Will Hunting. Yes. I was just thinking the other day that there's not a lot of room for weird and quirky movies anymore. Everything has to appeal to as wide a section of audience as possible. The movie that brought this to mind was 1999's Being John Malkovich. Leaving your kids at home for the day or night. I work with some people who think 13 is too young for their kid to be home on their own. My parents left me at home by myself when I was like 8 and they were like, don't use the stove. Good luck. Pantsing other kids or adult friends. I remember seeing that on TV and in cartoons with everyone laughing and the person who got painted either miffed or laughing along. Now people would see that as close to sexual harassment. Especially since sometimes the person might have gone commando or just had the waistband of the underwear come down too. Edit. As some have pointed out it's actually more akin to sexual assault and it's not cool to just do to someone. High school pay like 2006 to 2008 pantsing was still a thing. By reading some of these comments, folks are thinking 40 years ago was just 20 years ago. Stopping by to someone's house unannounced. Even back in 2004, cell phones were just starting to become ubiquitous but I still have memories around that time of my mom's friends randomly coming over unannounced. My mom was consistent on keeping the house clean at all times and I have to wonder if it was because she simply never knew when a friend was going to come over. I'm older and grew up rural. It wasn't until I got to college in 1998 that I started to get the idea that random drop-ins are not appreciated. Growing up that happened all the time. Calling ahead wasn't even a concept. Even if you didn't know the person. Putting a baby in a crib with blankets, pillows, bumpers and stuffies. Why? Work drinks during the day and sales teams going on to strip clubs with clients. Seems wild now that that was a regular enough thing. I was doing that 10 years ago. We had 2 stocked bars and a pool table at work at an ad agency. It's not overly surprising they eventually laid everyone off. Using the word gay to describe things that are stupid or unpleasant. Edit. Folks, thank you for the clarification, but the OP asks what is no longer acceptable. This doesn't mean the word is completely eradicated and no one uses it. At my high school, graduated 2003, I swear that was every fifth word out of someone's mouth. Everything was gay. Puka shell necklaces. Hey, now you're an all-star. Riding in the back of a pickup truck. I was going to jump in the bed of a friend's truck to run between his place and his brother's. He wouldn't let me, saying we couldn't because we would be on the highway part of the way. Color me surprised when I found out our state passed a law against riding in truck beds about 10-15 years ago. Smoking in the car with kids. It was already kind of not the best look, but I remember driving around and there were adults smoking with their kids in the back seats. Take this back to 1994 instead of 2004 and the sea change on smoking is almost unbelievable. Where I live, Toronto, in 1994 you could still smoke indoors in restaurants, people smoked in their offices, etc. Politicians changing their opinion. Labeling John Kerry a flip-flopper was exactly 20 years ago from this year. One of the dumbest reasons to hate on a politician, ever. Oh no, he learned and changed his mind. Good leaders are born knowing everything. Wearing a red hat without having to explain your political affiliation. Closer to 2016 I saw a red hat online somewhere with white lettering in that font that said "Made you look." I wanted it so bad but just never bought it. Leaving your kids in the car when you went grocery shopping. Even better when your parents leave you in the car while shopping and you move it over a few spots. Not enough parents taking their kids to empty parking lots to practice driving anymore. At least now that I hear of or see. Waiting at home for somebody to call you. That plus calling friends randomly and chatting on the phone for hours. Nowadays, people cringe at 5-minute voice notes and longer calls are scheduled if not avoided entirely. Paying for each text or a plan that covers 150 texts. Paying bills with a check. I used to write 15-20 checks a month. Now I write about 15 a year, 12 of them for rent. Smoking in public, spanking your kids and phone books. I still spank my phone books, fuck the polpo.